Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 337 of Super Switch Headz, the premier Nintendo podcast on all of the internet. My name is David Howe, and boy, oh boy, ladies and gentlemen, we are joined by a very special guest on today's episode of the show. Previously on the show before, but it's so good to have you back. Let's welcome Adanna. Hello, how are you?
That's me.
It's so good to see you.
So tired from MAGFest, but I'm very, very excited to chat about it.
I am very pumped and excited that you agreed to be on the show. We got to meet up at MAGFest, actually, Adanna, which was super fun. It was really nice to meet friends, and I'm sure we'll be talking a lot more about some of that here on the episode today. What we think is cool about MAGFest. Should you go to MAGFest? I feel like a lot of people in our audience might actually quite enjoy this convention that happens once every year, or I guess twice if you include.
It happens once. Well, there's also MAGWest, which is the West Coast equivalent, but MAGFest, which is the main one, happens every year, usually in January in National Harbor at the Gaylord Resort. Very fun time.
Yeah, it was a really good time. It was a little bit more than I was even anticipating. So we'll be getting all into that in our main topic, as well as talking some about the indie game section and just the ways that indie video game developers are represented at MAGFest, because I actually thought that was a really, really special part of the convention for me that I wasn't quite expecting. But other than that, we also have lots of news and rumors to go over this week in the world of Nintendo and gaming beyond. AGDQ also happened this past week, and that finished up. We'll be telling our totals for that one. Fire Emblem Path of Radiance dropped.
They just shadow dropped it.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Out of nowhere. Wow. Totally crazy stuff. There's been some unsettling confirmation from Larian about Baldur's Gate 3's chances for Nintendo Switch 2 and much, much more. But before we get into all that, how are you doing, Adanna? Are you holding up today?
I took so much NyQuil yesterday after MAGFest. I was like, as soon as I got home, I was like, yep, I'm gonna sleep for the next 18 hours. Yeah. And that's like pretty much what I did. I was like, being a game dev on the East Coast is difficult, but the one big plus is that I do not have to go. I have to drive an hour to get home from MAGFest, and I'm all good. No flights, nothing. I don't even have to really pack. If it fits in a car, it'll work.
Yeah, that's good. I'm jealous, to be honest. My drive home was not so easy. Basically, obviously, I'm in Texas. I'm down here in Austin. My flight back to Dallas was totally fine because I drove up to Dallas. Okay. My family is there. And so the whole idea was like, I'll stay a night with my family before going, and then I'll spend the night whenever I come back and then drive down Monday morning. Unfortunately, that was not the case when basically during MAGFest, I got a message from my dad that everyone in my family had come down with COVID. So whenever I got home, they were all like, don't come in. And then basically
they were stay.
Yeah, everybody was masking when I got back. I was putting on a mask. So I was like, I'm not going to, I don't know, basically everyone in the house got it. So I was like, I think I'm going to just drive home tonight. So
yeah, luckily I tested and did not have anything because I always try to give out masks and stuff to friends and stuff because it is a pretty crowded, but yes. I also chugged so much NyQuil that I think my insides turned acidic for the whole week of MAGFest.
Yeah, you were just giving off NyQuil from your just respiration. Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. I mean, I feel totally fine, to be honest, and I felt fine throughout the entire thing, but I surely thought that me coming home from the fest would be what made my family sick and not them getting sick on their own and me having to avoid them. So that was a bit topsy-turvy. But
yeah, the nice thing about MAGFest is from what I've seen in a lot of the communities is a lot of people will stay home if they're super sick, which is really nice.
Yes.
And there's also the nice part about even if you get sick while you're at the convention, you can just chill in your hotel room. And a lot of the panels, all the concerts are streamed. Mm-hmm. So if you're not feeling very well, I just want to retreat to your hotel room and watch stuff if you're tired. You can still experience the convention even from your hotel room, which is great.
Yeah. I mean, there were definitely, I never got sick when I was there, but I certainly did have times where I had to go somewhere else. I just
sit down, just a little complete silence.
Yeah.
I'm glad they added a quiet room this year because I was I can see how people can get overwhelmed. As soon as I got it on Thursday, I was like, this is great. I'm going to go to my room and sleep because I know I'm going to socialize for the most I have in the past 5 months for the next 3 days.
Yeah. It was pretty intense. There were definitely some sit in a dark corner and watch YouTube on my phone for about an hour moments. And I'm glad I had that ability. But yes, it was a very good time. We're not going to talk about that too much more right now because that's going to be in our main topic. But before we get into the news here, I did want to give a couple shout outs for last week's episode of the show. We had Nintendo Dormant on, George from Nintendo Dormant. Wonderful Nintendo podcast over there on YouTube and other platforms. He came on for a Oops All News episode, and we had a couple shout outs from that one. One was from Bebon on the Discord saying, I'm sending my spirit energy for David to finish Link to the Past. I actually have a funny update about that, Bebon. I'll talk about that at the end of the show. And then over on YouTube, we got a great comment from Bruns6265. And this is just basically talking about maybe why Nintendo's sales had slumped a little bit over this past holiday. And this is what Bruns had to say. Honestly, the Switch 2 catalog isn't big enough. Also, realistically, the Switch is catered more towards younger people. Not a lot of parents are trying to cough up $500 for the Switch 2 when their kids probably already have a PS5 or Xbox. And there were some other things in there as well. I do think that is certainly part of the reason. I think there's a lot of reasons that you could attribute a slump in sales. Just a oncoming global recession being one of them.
Yeah, rent prices are up. I think the interesting, especially about the catalog specifically, is like the reason I got my Switch 2 was because I was like, okay, I know that I'm going to play Mario Kart World. I know that I have a lot of friends that are going to play it. And it's only going to get harder to get if it's anything like the Switch one. I remember the great Animal Crossing Switch Nintendo Wars of 2020.
Yeah, exactly.
So I was like, I'll just get this first. But I think for a lot of people that especially aren't as like gaming heavy, because the Switch is like, I checked the prices earlier. It's like I've seen a Switch at GameStop for like $240. And then the new Switch 2 is $440, $450. So it's like a $200 price difference. And even though that's not like a crazy jump, it's like if you have the Switch and you don't like any Switch 2 games, there's no real reason to go through it because there's the Switch has such a great catalog. It also has access to the Nintendo Online stuff, so there are tons of fun games you can play. And I already know like a few friends that are like, we're waiting for like their one game before they actually move over to the Switch 2. It's like they know they're going to get it, but it's not until that game that they want, whether it's like Smash, the next Zelda, the next mainline Mario.
Well, I think this year, this upcoming holiday will be the release of the new Pokemon gen. And I have to imagine that's going to be an exclusive. That's going to sell a lot of systems if they put that only on the Switch 2, right?
Yeah, I agree, especially with all the anniversaries, because I know like Zelda has a big anniversary, Sonic does, Metroid does, Pokemon does. And I'm like crossing my fingers. This is finally we get like the old like DS and GBA Pokemon games online because I'm like, Nintendo, I know this is going to make bucket loads of money.
Yeah.
And I will just release it, please. I want to play Pokemon Platinum on my TV, so I stop ruining my eye. So playing on my DS.
And we don't care. Just put it on Switch too. I don't care. Just release it. You know what I mean? No one will blame you. No one will blame you if you make it exclusive.
One of the funniest moments of the Switch 2 Direct was like when everyone was waiting for, they're finally going to announce DS Online. And then it was the other thing with like the visor, the virtual boy. And everyone was like, huh?
That was a pretty good troll. I don't know.
Once they do the Nintendo DS Online, that's also going to move a lot of units, because I was actually in the market for like a new 3DS because while I was at MAGFest, one of the big things is like street passing. Street passed a lot of people. Yeah. And I was like playing old games and I was like, man, this is fun. I just wish I had a bigger screen so I stopped destroying my eyesight. And then I saw like, because like 3DSs are retro now and their console, outside of like emulation and piracy, you can't really access their library. So now they're like super duper expensive. I saw like a sealed Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time 3DS selling for $900 in the dealer.
Christ almighty. We've got a real problem in this country.
Like, that's so expensive. And I was like, the interesting thing about like all the handheld systems being popular, because I know you also sent me like a DS like that was made by a different company, as part of me is like, I wonder like if you like use the technology and made the DS again, and printed the games again, but with like all the technology and stuff we had now, made it at a much lower price point.
Yeah.
I feel like it would definitely be super popular, but I also think it's like balancing, mobile gaming, since now like your phones basically are little DSs that can run all
Right.
of these games.
I really think
could
so.
see-
I think that the age of the handhelds is coming back. I think that like it's gotten cheap enough to make a lot of those things to where like that Nintendo Classics line that we saw with like the SNES Classic and the NES Classic.
Yeah.
I think it might be time to bring forward some Game Boy and DS stuff, but
Exactly.
we'll have to see about that. We'll put a pin in it for right now because I think we could talk about that for the entire episode, to be honest.
No, literally.
But hopefully so. I'd love to see that line come back. But I did have one more shout out that I wanted to give at the top of the show, and this is for the game Big Hops. So you might remember that back last summer, we had Chris Wade on to talk about his upcoming game Big Hops from Luckshot Games. That game has now officially released. It is out on Switch, PS5, and Steam, and we actually have a code to give away for that game. This is a Switch copy of the game, runs on Switch and Switch 2, and that can be yours, listener. Basically, all you got to do is share this episode somewhere. Share the episode over on social media or on, Blue Sky, Instagram, TikTok, anything like that. Make sure to tag us so that we see that you actually shared it, and then you will be entered to win a copy of Big Hops.
The frog game, right? I saw some of my friends talking about
yes, it's a frog 3D platformer. I've been playing it for a while. I got an early key, like a review key, and I'm about 12 hours into the game, something like that. Absolutely loving it. I streamed it a little bit today. Such a good time. I'm glad I could finally actually stream it now that the embargo is up. So that was a blast. And
definitely we'll try it out this week.
Yeah, definitely check it out. And if you would like to be entered into that, like I said, just share this episode somewhere and make sure you tag us, and we will add you to the giveaway list. But if you would like to be shouted out next week, please drop us a line. Share the show on Reddit, tell a friend, whatever you can. We'll shout you out next week. But let's get into the news because we got a lot to cover before we talk about MAGFest. And like I said at the top, we are going to start with AGDQ. Awesome Games Done Quick has wrapped up, and it raised a total of $2.4 million for the Prevent Cancer Foundation. You love to see it. I myself am a cancer survivor, so I get very excited anytime GDQ comes around, not just because I love speedrunning, but I love seeing it go towards a good cause. If you're watching the video version right now, there is a blindfolded Majora's Mask run that is being shown. They always have really cool runs like this. Yes. I don't even remember half of the stuff that happens in Majora's Mask, let alone able to play it blind, so that is very, very impressive to me. I will say one of my favorite runs that I saw was an American Truck Simulator run, which just descended into absolute chaos. Like it was like nothing went right the entire time. Was like, but it was so funny, and everybody on stage was like rolling with the punches. And then it was like, as it was all like wrapping up towards the end, just all the glitches that ended up happening. It was like coda after coda after coda. I was howling with laughter. I was almost crying just like watching on my couch at home.
That's amazing. Did the dog do speed runs? I know there's a dog.
I know there's a dog. I didn't see if the dog did speed runs this time. I'll have to look it up after the show, but I think it's a pretty fun time. Have you ever been to GDQ, Adanna?
I have not, but I've seen a lot of my friends post about it, and I'm definitely going to look into it because I think MAGFest actually streams some, because I know there's MAGFest where they do all the speed runs, and I think some of the stuff was actually connected to GDQ. But because it's so close to MAGFest, and I'm always like planning and prepping for panels, I just need to remind myself to check it out earlier. But I've always seen and heard amazing things about it.
Yeah.
Especially like how fun it is to connect with others in the speedrunning community, which is super cool.
Yeah. It was definitely fun watching some of those speedruns at MAGFest this year. And I'm going to try to make it to SGDQ this summer, I think. And I've just always wanted to go. I think the time that I spent at MAGFest in the speedrunning room like made me realize like, yeah, I got to go to GDQ. I really enjoy this kind of thing. But yeah, good time there. And congratulations to the GDQ staff for being finished. That's got to be a very taxing endeavor to do that for an entire week. I was at MAGFest for 4 days and I wanted to die. We'll move on to our next bit of news here. And this was something that just dropped today, the day we're recording this. That's Monday, January 12th. Nintendo of Europe basically said that a Splatoon 3 update, that being update 11.0.0, is dropping on January 29th. This is kind of a bit of an update to a news bit that we had last week, talking about how Peggy had rated a Switch 2 edition of Splatoon 3. So,
oh no, I gotta get back to the salmon. Now.
I know. I imagine this is like somewhat related to it. I do know that they said that no new weapons or anything like that are going to be dropping in this update. So it seems like they're adding some new features and just balance and stuff like that here, but it sounds like there also will be further updates to this game. And I'm kind of surprised. I mean, we talked about it last week, but I thought this game was done and over, and they just did a big content update whenever they announced Splatoon Raiders with version 10. So it's really interesting to see this game still have life. I do wonder what that means for Splatoon 4, but if they keep adding substantial content to this game, I think I'm okay just living with Splatoon 3 for a while with the Switch 2 edition.
Yeah,
but what do you think,
I was
Adanna?
like, literally the only reason I like want a Splatoon 4 is because I haven't, when Splatoon 3 was like still like doing like all the different like Splatfest and stuff, I was pretty on it. But now that my skills have gotten rusty, the like lobbies are full of like all the pro players, and I'm like, okay, I need Splatoon 4 to come out so we can balance. Need to balance the arena again. I need to jump some children on Christmas Day instead of the pros that have been playing this since Splatoon 1. Because I like saw all the new weapons and I was like, no, all the new metas I have to learn.
Look, I love Splatoon, but I always play with the same loadout. I'm like, I am a Splooshomatic and the curling bombs user, and that's pretty much all I use. And
my Flinkzilla roller for life. But I have a friend who's been playing all the way since Splatoon 1, and we ended up with playing like the actual like ranked together.
Right.
I was like, when we were playing, we would like consistently get up to like S+, which was fun.
Right.
But I was like, after like the Splatfest were over, I was like, okay, I gotta relax because now like all the X players are like violently fighting at the top, and I'm like, you know what? I'm fine here in A rank.
Yeah,
I'm tired of like C and E lighter getting like 15 headshots in a row while I'm trying to just run and make it to the top. And I'm like, you know what? I'm good. You guys got this. I'll be back in Splatoon 4.
It's a living nightmare every day. And then add on to that, you really get Splatoon hand the harder you play.
No,
the more you play, the more your hands are like...
Between Splatoon and like Hades 2, those are like the top two games I have to end up taking breaks from because I'll get carpal tunnel if I'll play them too much for too long.
Yeah.
And I was like, yep, the Splatoon hands are back. Time to go stretch and do something else.
Yeah. They should come up with a hand yoga or something like that. I don't know. Maybe there's a market for that. We'll move on. Our next bit of news here involves the literal children's game, and this is the My Mario line of toys and games that have been coming out in Japan. A lot of these are like physical toys for babies, but there are also a couple like iPad and Switch apps that are My Mario, I guess, branded as well. One of them is called Hello Mario. It's a game where you take Mario's face and you stretch it around and you squish
Mario
it up.
64, and they made it bigger again.
Yes, exactly. And they basically, it's just a little tactile thing for babies to have brand imprinting early on. So they
Of course, you gotta recruit them to Nintendo early.
Exactly.
I think the very interesting thing, as someone who grew up as a kid with like zero Nintendo merch outside of like the occasional Kirby plushie you got at like GameStop or you got from like your friend who went to an anime convention. And now they're like ramping up into like all these things. Like there's I think the Nintendo calendar, it's either the Nintendo calendar or one of the apps that like has like the calendar, the customized calendars.
Yeah, Nintendo Today.
Nintendo Today. There we go. Where they're spreading out into being like not just a games company, but also doing it for like lifestyle stuff. There's like more house stuff. You can buy Pokemon comforters for your house. And I think it makes a lot of sense because a lot of the kids have now grown up and have adult money, which you definitely saw at MAGFest. I like bought a Sonic doormat and it was great. And then like seeing like all their like sort of like broadening all their products, but still have their like Nintendo quirkiness to it, which is really cool. So I'm very excited to see like all the other cool stuff that they make.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's, it's nice for kids to have things for them to play with, I suppose. I know I loved the like Nintendo or the Mario Adventures comic that ran in Nintendo Power back in the day. I actually saw somebody was selling that at MAGFest, and I just got smacked with a wave of nostalgia. It's a great time.
It's a great place to get a lot of Nintendo Power. As I've got a few from there.
100%. Yeah. But anyway, so if you have little kids and you're trying to indoctrinate them early, keep your eye on the My Mario stuff coming out. But we'll move on to our next bit of news here, and that involves something that I really wish Summer was here for, because Summer is our resident Fire Emblem head, and out of nowhere, Fire Emblem Path of Radiance dropped on Nintendo Classics, GameCube, Nintendo Switch Online. Trailer was put out. Also, I think the soundtrack dropped on Nintendo Music.
Yes, the soundtrack's on Nintendo Music.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. I was like, while I was at MAGFest, I started a new replay of Fire Emblem Awakening.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, it feels like home. And then I saw the announcement for Path of Radiance. I was like, finally, I can stop trying to play this on like my poor and like emulating this. I can actually play this. And I'm very excited to like check it out. It's something a lot of my like older Fire Emblem fans have always liked. And of course, it's about Ike, who's like the Fire Emblem guy besides Marth. So very excited to see that. And I'm especially excited to see if there's like, with the drop of that, if there's going to be more Fire Emblem stuff coming up. Because I know they announced the new game in the last direct we had. I can't remember. Dragon's Tear or something.
Fortune's Weave, which
is cool. And it's connected to Fire Emblem Three Houses in some way. So I'm very interested to see how like this game is going to bring out like more, if they're going to be like returning more to Fire Emblem Three Houses, which a lot of people liked, because I played both. My gamer sin is I still have not finished one route of Fire Emblem Houses, even though I really like it, because I'll be playing it and then something else cool will come out and I'll be like, oh, I'll just come back to it. And that's
it's a long game and you're meant to beat it three times too. Yeah. It's like, what are you thinking?
And I'm interested to see if this is like more of a turn to that, because I did play Engage and I liked the battle system, but I felt like the characters were, I feel like Fire Emblem, I feel like once you like, it was a lot harder to like get attached to the characters at first, because they feel like they're all like too agreeable with the protagonist. Whereas like in Three Houses and Conquest and Fire Emblem Awakening, some characters have friction with you, which is really fun.
Totally.
And it's like, it's not like, oh, you're the savior. It's like, oh, these weirdos. And you have to like, actually like get these weirdos to like you before as they fight beside you, which is great.
Well, it was that's something that I actually really liked about that game, was that it was kind of like, you know, this Persona style like social game in addition to being the battles. And I like the battles, but it's like, you know, I can bounce off of, turn-based RPGs like decently easily, just because, like you said, there's so much to play. I really love like pick up and play action games and whatever. So
yeah, exactly. So you have to like plan. You have to actually think when you're playing.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, well, let me look at this critical rate.
I'm trying to have smooth brain, turn off my mind, nothing but bouncing Mario. We could maybe word that a little bit better. Anyway, I'm looking forward to trying out Path of Radiance. Marth in our Discord, no relation to the famous Marth. No, I think actually probably is it, but it's said that this is one of the best Fire Emblem games, so I'm very excited that a lot more people will have access to it. But congratulations to all you Fire Emblem sickos. We're going to move on to the next bit of news, and that involves the Nintendo Switch game vouchers. So Nintendo previously announced that game vouchers will be ceasing at the end of January, and they reiterated that fact today. So that has come out, and they're like, hey, make sure if you want to get game vouchers, you should get them. And I do recommend it. Basically, a game voucher is $100 and you get 2 games for it. So that's a $20 saving. If you're planning on buying games at full price, which most Nintendo games are, they did say that new Switch games through the end of 2026 will be voucher eligible. So I imagine that Tomodachi Life will be eligible. I imagine that
I'm so
Rhythm Heaven.
For that.
Yes, I am too. I think both of those announced Nintendo Switch games will be eligible. And then generally, if there are cross-platform games as well, you can use the voucher to buy the Switch version and then just pay the upgrade for the actual Switch 2 version. So if there are any more cross-platform releases, I don't know how many more of those we'll get for the Switch 2. Maybe some older games will get them, and then if you haven't gotten them, maybe that's a good way to use the voucher system. But either way, that's a little bit of a PSA. I think I'm probably going to pick up one of these before the end of the month, just because I know I'm going to be getting Tomodachi Life. I think that's going to be such an awesome experience. I can't wait for Tomodachi Life releasing in 2026 in the era of online discourse and social media. I think it's going to be
it's
very,
going to
very
be
fun.
so wild. I think my favorite thing is like already talking to friends about which anime characters we're going to have like running amok on our islands.
Yeah.
Like I'm definitely going to have Alucard running around, Gojo probably, just to see, just for all of the chaos. And I think one of the other like fun things is like as a games writer, sometimes I was like, this is going to be so useful because whenever I have writer's block, I can just open Tomodachi Life and put my characters in there.
Right.
Like,
that's like a dry run.
Out.
Yeah, exactly. Good idea. That's not a bad idea, actually. Maybe I'll do that to cure my writer's block. But very much so, pick up those game vouchers if you're trying to save $20, I guess. Even better if you can get, eShop cards on sale and then put that towards the vouchers. That's kind of the best price hack you got there. Moving on, we have a little bit of news involving Larian and Baldur's Gate 3. So recently, the team at Larian did an AMA on Reddit. And basically, they were asked straight up if there's going to be a Switch 2 version of Baldur's Gate 3. And they said no, but not because they don't want to make it or it can't be done. I think it all comes down to a rights issue between Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro. You might know a little bit more about this than I do, Adanna. Are you a Baldur's Gate fan?
Really, I'm into Baldur's Gate, but I'm very much like new to the realm of like D&D, Hasbro's Wizards of the Coast. I've been meaning to like get more into D&D, but I'm familiar with Baldur's Gate 3, and I'm interested because even though I think like it's going to sell, I feel like the Baldur's Gate 3 hype era has like passed in a way. Like there are definitely people into it. I did see a ton of like different Baldur's Gate 3 cosplayers at MAGFest. But I also feel like that everyone who wanted to get into the game already has it. The only market is like people who just want to play it on the go. But I feel like if you wanted to, you would have gotten, most likely probably might have been on a Steam Deck like I did. It runs very well on Steam Deck. And you can mod it too. Highly recommend. But I think the interesting thing about it is like when you have the Switch 2, especially as it's like getting a backlog of bigger AAA games that have maybe come out for like the past year or 2 years. And I think the interesting thing is that even though it's not going to make a lot of money now, the question is how much money it's going to make over time as people get older and more people get into games. And of course, you're going to want to try out Baldur's Gate 3. So it's all like very, very interesting, especially when it comes to like stuff with like right stuff and things like that. That's like more of the business side of the games, because I feel like even with like the right stuff, the Switch 2 is such like a power market right now, even with the diminished sales, and it's only going to like rise exponentially as soon as the next Smash just comes out. Next Smash, next Pokemon, next Legend of Zelda. Of course, more people are going to get into it, but it's all super interesting. I wish I like knew more about it, but I'm still like very new to this.
It's a shame too, because it's kind of coming on the tail of, I think, a bunch of really promising third-party ports coming to Switch too.
Because they got the Night Rain, Elden Ring. We got Yakuza coming to Switch, which I never thought I'd see the day.
Final Fantasy VII remake looks incredible.
Yeah.
I played the demo of that on Switch too, and I was blown away. I mean, it looks really, really great in handheld. And then you put it on the TV and you're like, holy shit. Like they really did a number on that. And then also you had the developer of that saying they're going to be putting all 3 of those games, including the one that isn't even out yet. They've promised they're bringing them to Switch 2. So I really hope that, whatever beef like historically Wizards of the Coast or Hasbro has with Nintendo, because, there is that history there with like the Pokemon trading card game. I don't know if that has anything to do here. Obviously Wizards of the Coast, or rather Hasbro, I suppose, declined to comment when they were reached out to, according to some articles that I read. So We'll see. There's been a lot of people complaining about this though online, so I could see people kind of like making a bit of a pressure campaign and seeing this actually work out. But anyway, we'll see. I do think that would move quite a few units, and I think people would double dip to have it on Switch. But we will move on to our next bit of news, and that involves some new Joy-Con colors that were officially revealed. I think these look pretty good. These are the first of Nintendo's new colors for the Joy-Cons. They are a kind of light purple and light green variants. I think they're technically releasing alongside Mario Tennis, like the new Mario Tennis game that's coming out. I think they have similar aesthetics for that game. So that'll be releasing on February 12th, 2026. I think these look pretty good. People have been memeing on these quite a bit.
Because it's just like the inside. But I saw someone make like what it would look like with the actual colors. And they made a good point on how they would look very similar to Switch 1 Joy-Cons. And because the Switch 1 is pretty popular, of course, like I saw so many like Black Friday and Christmases of like parents getting their kids like the wrong Switch. And I was like, I can see why, but I do kind of wish like the Switch 2 had like a different color scheme. Like if it was maybe if it was like a swirl design or some way to distinguish it from like the Switch 1.
Sure, yeah.
Because I would love different colors and of course themes on it, but I can understand how much it's hard to like make it distinct enough so that people don't buy the wrong product. But it's also the Switch 2, so it's naturally going to look similar. And you also want to make it that's not going to make like production prices too high.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they decided to kind of go with the slick aesthetic for the Switch 2, and I think it does set it apart a little bit, and I think that whatever the Switch 2 can set itself apart from Switch 1 is a good thing, right? As people are looking for an excuse to spend that amount of money, as we talked about at the beginning of the show. But yeah, I think this looks fine. I think just anything Nintendo does is going to be met with like a ton of criticism online these days. It's actually very annoying how much the discourse has been over just the past like 6 months.
And I think it's also people like forget, even though the games are fun, they're a product that's meant to be sold and make money. So like making money is the core thing, but they're also going to make a really fun game because that's part of like making a good product in order to make that money.
Yeah, I agree. Anyway, so these look kind of cool. If you need an extra pair, go for it. I'm probably not going to pick them up because Switch 1 Joy-Cons are compatible with Switch 2. And so if I've got
Switch
friends
1
over...
Pro controllers and Power A controllers.
Exactly.
My $20 Power A controller I got from Amazon works perfectly.
Exactly. So I'm happy for you, Nintendo, but I'm a pass. Our next bit of news here involves the Pokemon Lego collab. So this was announced a little while ago that Lego and Pokemon were finally teaming up. The license for Pokemon was with another company for a while. I forget what they're called, but it's that kind of Lego knockoff. Lego finally got the rights to work on Nintendo stuff, and the fruits of their labor is finally coming out. And it is not cheap. I'll tell you
Everyone's
that much.
wallets cried.
Yes. There are 4 things coming out, as I understand. These are all releasing on Pokemon Day. One of them, the cheapest of them, is a $60 Eevee statue, I guess. I don't know what you call Lego things. And then also we have a $200 Pikachu and Pokeball set. And then there is a $650 set with Venusaur, Charizard, and Blastoise. I mean, don't get me wrong. This one looks gorgeous. I am very...
I was like, at first I was like, $649, but then I'm seeing and I was like, yeah. I could see with all the different pieces, like it says like over 6,000 Lego pieces. I was like, yeah. I could see how it's like, it looks really cool. I know it's going to sell like hotcakes.
Yeah.
But I'm like, man, I was like, it's going to be a very sad day in my household when they release the Gen 4. If they release the Gen 4, I'm like,
Yeah. This is going to prove a very profitable endeavor for Lego and Pokemon Company going forward. I think I can see a lot of people buckling on this. And man, Lego collectors, they will pay tons of money for this stuff. Yeah, because
Lego, the neat thing about Lego is that they're already paying a ton of money for these blocks. So they're like, now we can pay it for Pokemon and it looks good.
It's crazy. I bless every day that I am not a Lego guy. And I mean, look, I'm happy for the Lego fans, but my wallet is also pleased.
I got a One Piece, the live action One Piece. I got a Lego set as a gift, and now I'm like, it's starting.
Yeah.
No, this is how it starts because my sister's already into Legos. I got her the Korok Lego set.
Right.
And now she's been like bugging me to get more. And now I'm like, well, if I get the One Piece, that means that I'm probably going to get to the ship eventually because I like One Piece. And then it's just a slippery slope from there.
Yeah, exactly. You're chasing that dragon your entire life. I got the Game Boy Lego and I was like,
Nice.
that's cool. And then I think I'm good. I think the bug did not bite me.
This is great.
Yeah.
It's like, this is great. I can put it here. It looks cool, and I never have to spend my life savings on these blocks ever again.
Yeah, I'd much rather start smoking cigarettes again than get back into Lego. No, I'm joking about that. That is not a good idea. But anyway, last thing I'll say here was there's also a Kanto badge case. So it was like all the badges that you could open up from the original
I saw that,
game.
and I was like, why did you sell this separately? I know it's a pre-order.
I know. Yeah, it's like a pre-order bonus.
Incentivize people. But I'm like, man, if they do a Gen 4 version of this, it's going to be so bad on my wallet.
Yeah. Like I would literally just get that out of all of them. Mm-hmm. But of course they have it as a pre-order bonus for the $650 set. So whatever. It's a little confusing as to like if that's like sold out already or just like if it's being released in the US. I'm not exactly sure, but we'll touch on that later if we so please. But we'll move on to our last bit of news here before the main topic. And that involves the Animal Crossing update that is coming out this week. It's dropping, I think, on Thursday, the 15th. So, Wednesday night. There's a Switch 2 edition coming out and a big 3.0 content update. We're excited about this. We will be covering this next week when it comes out on the show. But I just wanted to say that is coming out. And to be aware of that, there was a Tetris 99 Maximus Cup theme that I did unlock today.
Oh, you're better than me. I have not touched 99 in forever because I remember when it first came out and I was obsessed. I was playing that daily, and then I was like, I should chill back a bit because I love playing Tetris, and 99 just hits that like perfect sweet spot in my brain.
I love it so much.
Where you're like completely locked in and entered a flow state the entire time.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I gotta show, especially when they did like the Mega Maximus Cup where you can only enter if you've already placed number one.
Right.
I've been trying to like play that, and I feel like every time I play that, I feel my stress levels rising, and I'm like, this is supposed to be relaxing.
Well, it's like the song that's in it is like, it's like Flight of the Bumblebees. It's like,
especially when it like gets more stressful as there's like more people are dropping out and you're like the last two remaining.
Yeah. Crazy stuff. Well, I will say, and if I can just take this moment to humble brag, I like remembered that it was happening this morning, and I was like, oh no, I got to play before it leaves. And then I sat down to play this morning, and I got first place on my first try, and I unlocked it in one go. That never happens during Maximus Cups because that's like when everybody plays, and so it's like a lot harder.
Yeah, exactly. It's lucky when you got near the end, so all like the pro players are gone. So now you had to deal with all the stragglers trying to get it.
Yeah, so I was very proud of myself on that one, and it was just I was blessed with just a great, smooth, perfect run. So I was very happy to see that. But anyway, that's going to be it for the news. We'll be talking about Animal Crossing, the 3.0 update next week. But I think with that, we're going to move on to our main topic, which is MAGFest 2026 recap right after this break. And we are back with Adanna to talk all about MAGFest 2026. Man, this was a really fun time, Adanna. This was my first ever MAGFest, and I had such a blast. I'm so glad to have you on the show to talk about this. People who don't know you should know that you are a games writer. I know you worked on Spirit Swap, is that correct?
Yes,
the
games writer.
The Panel de Pon-like?
Yes, Panel de Pon-like.
Yes.
I played so much Pokemon Puzzle League in the art.
Me too.
MAGFest arcade because I was like, oh, I have it. They're like, oh, you want to play? Because everyone who plays Puzzle League is a little freak. They're like, oh, so you want to play? Immediately sets the difficulty on high. And I'm like, I just got here, bro.
Yeah, I know.
My brain hasn't loaded yet.
I'm a panel upon enjoyer. It is. I've got a couple friends where like that is our online game of choice, like on the Super Nintendo app, and I was like, oh yeah, I got this. And then I sat down with the guy who was like running the Pokemon area of the consoles bit, and he just completely smoked me like every time.
It was
and I was
like the funniest thing was it was like fair. Saturday morning after I got breakfast. I went to the Silver Diner because I was like, it's 7 a.m. There's no line. I'm getting my pancakes now. I was walking through the arcade because there's like less people. It's nice, like chill to like explore, see the games. And I saw a dude playing Puzzle League, and then I hopped in and I saw him set it to S difficulty, and I was like, I've made a mistake because I did better than I thought I did. I didn't lose in like the first minute, but I could like see a 7 combo on the side, and I felt my brain melting because it was like 3 hours of sleep. I was like, wait. I was like, let's just slow down just a little bit. But yeah. MAGFest is always
anyway, all of that fun. To say, Adanna is a game dev, and Spirit Swap is a great game. You should definitely check that out, especially for the Match 3 puzzle heads out there. But with that out of the way, we're here talking about MAGFest this year. If you're not aware, MAG stands for Music and Games Festival. It is basically a video game music convention. And that's how it was pitched to me originally whenever I was talking to this about Summer. And I just want to say, I really wish Summer was here. Summer was going to do this episode originally, but Summer's voice is completely gone from like all the singing they did and all the screaming. Voice. That's why I'm like, you're going to want lozenges, you're going to want cough drops, you're going to want NyQuil because your voice is going to be shredded. Exactly. So rest up, Summer. We hope you feel better. But I was very peer pressured by Summer to go to this thing. And I was always like, I don't know. But then I kept watching footage from last year. And I will say it is like so much more. Yes, it's so much more than it was pitched to me as originally, and I had such a good time. But maybe, Adanna, it might be good to hear from you, like, if you could, like, kind of pitch MAGFest or kind of explain it to someone who hasn't been before, like, how would you describe it? Is like adult Christmas if you're like a gamer. That's the best way to describe it. This has been my 4th MAGFest. My first one was 2023. Which feels like eons ago because yes, the focus is like music and gaming. Like it's a gaming convention first with a very heavy music focus. There's a lot of concerts. There's a lot of jam spaces. If musicians want to like bring their instrument and just jam out, there are spaces to do that. Meet you other see people walking down the hall with their like giant keyboards and saxophones. There's the community orchestra, which is literally just composed of just people who come to MAGFest and learn like the Friday and Thursday night, just practice and learn a full orchestral performance. And there's usually something with the guests too, which rocks. But MAGFest, the nice thing about MAGFest and one of the coolest things is how nice everyone is because everyone knows that you're like a gamer, you're a very gaming enthusiast. So it's always super fun. And the second thing is like, there's something for everyone. I actually did like 3 different panels at MAGFest. Well, 2 panels in a meetup. One was a Women of Color Creatives meetup. One was a panel with some other cool Black game developers. And the last one was actually about games research because the cool thing about MAGFest is that there are a ton of like different departments running different things. And one of them is Mages, which is specifically with games education. So if it's like games academia, or if you're like a teacher trying to incorporate games more in your curriculum, whether it's like a kindergarten level, maybe a middle school or high school level, even at like the collegiate level. So there's like panels and stuff available for that too. That was really, really cool. And I think the fun part about MAGFest is like there's something for everyone there. As long as you like games, you're going to find something because between the arcades, the panels, the guests that they have, all like watching the speed runs. I don't know if you saw the speed run that had like the Mega Man X speed run, but the controller was just lemons. But that was hilarious. No, I missed that one.
Yeah, and the other cool thing about MAGFest is all of the panels and concerts are recorded and posted to the MAGFest YouTube channel, usually in like a few months or so. So if you're like interested in seeing like stuff you may have missed, you can check it out. I know like my panels from the last few years are definitely up there along with some other cool ones. I think one of the highlights of last year's MAGFest, which was Sonic themed, was getting to meet Ian Flynn, who writes for the IDW comics. That was really, really cool. And he also did a panel on like just comics writing and all this other cool stuff. And it's like, no matter like what avenue of games you're in, whether you're like an indie dev, whether you're like a hobbyist, or even if you're just a musician who likes video games, there's always like stuff for you. And they're like someone who's worked with like some of the people like actually like with the planning and stuff, they're like making more and more types of accessible content. Like there's Mag Scouts, which is more for like kids. So there's like little events, like if you want to have like painting stuff, arts and crafts, So it's like fun for the whole family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're totally on about that, and I do like that it's an all ages thing. I feel like it was mostly people like adults and people around our age that were there, but it was cool seeing parents with their kids walking around, and I could just imagine being a kid and going to this and just having my mind blown.
Completely overwhelmed.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. Just seeing everybody in cosplay walking around and just, it would just be an overwhelming experience. And I will say I was decently overwhelmed when I got there. I was like,
you're just like, what is going on?
On the video version, I will be cutting back and forth to a bit of a walkthrough that somebody posted. This was from, I think, Conquests is the YouTube channel. And we'll be showing some of that footage on here as we're talking. This is before the whole place was filled up with people. So bear that in mind.
Before the seas filled, because like MAGFest, the interesting thing about this year was it was the first year it sold out like 2 months before, because it sold out in November, which was wild. And they also, this was the first year they did it as a closed event. So you had to use your MAGFest badge to get in. So it was like, I think this was like the perfect way to like have the event where it's like, you can get as many people as possible, but it doesn't feel like oppressively crowded unless you're like trying to get a photo by the gazebo. And it's like impossible unless it's 6 a.m. But it's like, you can still flow through the halls pretty well. It's nice seeing all the different types of people and cosplayers. And I was like, if you're interested in MAGFest, I would say try to do another convention first. And this isn't because I don't think you'll like MAGFest. It's just like, I'm going to start skiing and I'm going to immediately go down Mount Everest. And it's very easy to burn yourself out trying to go to like literally everything. Because the neat thing about MAGFest is it is a literal 24/7, like the entire time.
I was going to say, yeah. I actually didn't know that until I was like on my way there. I think like Summer basically was like, oh yeah, and it's 24, because I hadn't really looked at the schedule. Like I just didn't have a ton of time leading up to it. And so I was like, oh yeah, like I'll look at the schedule like on the plane. And then I was like, oh wait, no, there's stuff that goes on all night long. And it's like,
the arcade is open 24/7. There's like concerts going on 24/7. One of my friends was going to a set at like 3 a.m. And I was like, you're better than me. My back hurts and I'm tired.
Yes. I've got footage of the arcade area up right now. I think that like, even if it was just that, I think like you could spend like most of your time just in the arcade playing all the free play games. But on top of that, obviously you've got the arcade area. You have a huge indie showcase area, which I'd love to get to here in a little bit. You also, as you said, there are multiple concerts going on at all times. There's like the giant main concert area. Then you've got little pop-up areas where people can just show up and jam.
The chiptune stage.
Yes.
There's the Belvedere, I'm probably mispronouncing that, but the jazz bar that's like right by the entrance, there are also performances there.
Right, yeah, that's going on at all times. And then on top of that, like you said, there is a designated speed run stage. There is all these panel rooms. And then there's also a giant consoles area. And I think what was cool about the consoles area that I didn't know that they had was like a whole setup basically where they have this bespoke like set of challenge ROM hacks that are made and like with a leaderboard and everything. And they're they're like specific to each year of MAGFest. So it's like one of them that I played was like, just like a really hard variant of like the Donkey Kong Country, like minecart area. Or there was one
definitely checking that out next year.
It was so cool. And I hope that someone ends up actually releasing that online because it was really, really fun. But it was like, there was also stuff where it was like you have to beat or this area of the Bowser's castle area in Mario 64 that's in all the lava, but you don't have the ability to jump. So you have to like strategically have your butt hit the lava so you can like make it to the next platforms and get coins enough to survive. So stuff like that. And then there are leaderboards for that. So there was a whole section over there. Obviously there's all these CRTs. It was just like a sea, like a never ending sea of CRT TVs set up with old classic consoles.
Rent a console area where you can like for free, you can just get and play with consoles, play old games. And they also have, I don't know if you saw like the Japanese arcade side where they have like all the imported games and the pinball side too.
Yeah.
There's just so much cool stuff and it's all like maintained and it's all like really nicely placed out. So there's always like something you can like walk around and look at.
Yeah, it's like unlimited rhythm music arcade games, obviously, as you would expect.
Played so much DDR too.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Got to play the Rhythm Tengoku, Rhythm Heaven arcade game, which was Japanese only. They had that there, which was a blast. Yeah, I mean, there's obviously a ton more too, and I think for the tabletop and board game enjoyers as well. I didn't see this until the very end of the festival, but there's a whole separate building just for tabletop, right? And so
and there's the like paintings. I actually only knew about the mini paintings because one of my friends from high school was there, and that's where we met up. Like, there's a ton of like tabletop, like figure painting. So like for all aspects of gaming, there's something. I think one of my favorite things was when I was walking from like the Rebecca Sugar, the Steven Universe speed run. There was like a group of people sitting in a chair and they were all playing Werewolf right next to the panel door, which was hilarious.
Yeah, that is really cool. Yeah, I only got there at the very end. I'm not a huge tabletop guy, but it was really nice to see. And I know a lot of people in our community are big tabletop fans, so that's definitely something that is worth checking out. Yeah, and I just think there's never a lack of anything to do, and like you said, it probably is a good idea to like at least go to a con just so you like know what it's like to be around a bunch of people, in cosplay, and to just and the panel experience, showing up to things on time or whatever. But I will say personally, like I've been to other cons, like nerd cons, anime cons, whatever, and I've enjoyed them. But it's like I've never been to one that spoke so specifically to my interests like this one. Like this is my first actual like video game. Well, I guess I've been to PAX South, and that that is a video game convention too. But this was like that on steroids. It was like a completely different thing, right? And I think with PAX South, it's almost like you've got your panels and you've got the kind of exhibition floor. And that's kind of what you get. And I think with MAGFest, like that is like, 2/10 of the whole experience, really, right? And obviously you do have a giant exhibition floor and an artist alley where people are selling their stuff and there are retro game sellers and whatnot. But I think with everything else, it was just really like hard for me to pick everything I wanted to do, I guess. But yeah, no, really, really amazing stuff. And I think just it's nice for the gamers to have something to go to at this level. And also, one last thing I'll say as well is I was very surprised that there are 0 corporate sponsors for this entire event, or at least.
Yeah, so the interesting thing about MAGFest is that it's been volunteer run this whole time, which is just a testament to how amazing all the volunteers are. And they've been like working like really hard, cultivated the relationship with the Gaylords. That way they like can completely rent it out. Because for people who don't know, Gaylord is a huge resort in Maryland, very expensive. And they've worked with MAGFest. Like they also worked with Katsucon. But for MAGFest, it's like the entire event is just MAGFest, which is just a testament to how many people come and how many people they like bring to the area. And I also like it because it's just great for like the local Maryland National Harbor economy. The Auntie Annie's next to the Gaylord was open 24/7, and I'm annoyed because I only learned that Sunday morning.
Yeah,
when I walked past and saw they were open and saw the sign. I was like, man, I could have been getting pepperoni pretzel nuggets, and I was up at 6 a.m. playing Mario Kart.
Yeah, you definitely have to force yourself to go to sleep. I know I personally was not staying at the Gaylord. I didn't get a room there. Also, I came by myself.
The lottery is always hard.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. And I was talking to some of my game developer friends that had games at the indie showcase, and they were like, hey, that's the way to do it because they put you up here. It's room and board at the hotel. And obviously you get your badge waived and everything like that.
Yeah, so that's why I'm always doing a panel. So I don't have to worry about like fighting for a badge.
Yeah,
I was like, let me do this. I'll worry about, because since I'm local, I was like, I'll worry about like lodging a little later.
Right.
Because I could commute to MAGFest. I personally wouldn't recommend it. I always I think it was the first year I commuted, but the next year I was like at a hotel that was like a 10-minute Lyft ride away. So like once it was like 3 a.m. and I knew there was nothing I was really going to do besides sleeping, I would just head there and just collapse, because Gaylord is nice, but if you actually want to sleep and aren't like me and can knock out immediately after I take NyQuil, there will always be room parties. Like there was a Fall Out Boy party that was like 3 doors down. And I was like, okay, I got my NyQuil. Nothing will awaken me besides a fire alarm, so I'm good.
I did meet a couple boys at the Mario 64 70-star race that I saw at the speedrun room. And when I was there, we talked for a little while, and then they ended up inviting me to a room party. And I was like, dang, you guys are going hard in here. Like Everclear punch situation.
I saw on the Facebook, like people I saw like a picture of someone who brought in their ninja slushie just to make drinks in their hotel room. I was like, man.
I was hearing about another one that was like a hot dog party at like one of the rooms. And they were like, what does that mean? And they were like, is that like a sexual thing? And they're like, no, they were just giving out hot dogs to everybody.
That would surprise me. I saw someone giving out popcorn out of their room one year, like had a full popcorn machine set up. And I was like, you know what? That tracks.
Right.
I think the fun thing about MAGFest is that it feels like it's like very unhinged, but in like a wholesome way.
Sure.
Everyone's like, everyone knows you're here to geek out about games. It's super fun. Because I remember it was like 12 a.m. and I was going down on Friday night for something. And the elevator opens up and it's just a dude in a full like Donkey Kong costume. And I was like, whoa. Because I was like, he was like, no, it was just fine. I'm real. Because I was like, it was just 12 a.m. And it's like the time where your brain's like fried. And I was like, I'm probably not hallucinating this, but it's not a 0% chance.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I walked in my Funky Kong shirt and Donkey Kong country hat on Sunday, and the first person I saw in there was decked out as Donkey Kong, and we immediately like shouted at each other and took a selfie, which was a ton of fun. But yeah, no, it's a really great time. You got to like make yourself go to sleep. That's cool that you had a room there. I do think that like if you're going with someone, that's definitely the way to go if you can get in, obviously.
There's a lottery for the Gaylord every year because everyone's always competing for the Gaylord. But the other nice thing is there are other hotels nearby. There's Marriott, there's a Hampton Inn. And what they started doing this year, which was cool, I don't know how it went because I was at the Gaylord, but they had shuttles from different hotels in Alexandria that were running like every 15 minutes during like peak hours and then once every half an hour to an hour. So just making it so that it's like a lot easier for people from other hotels to like come in and come to the convention. Because like so many people come into DC for MAGFest. It's wild.
Yeah, there are a lot of people like from Maryland that were there. And I know that because I got a ton of street passes and most of them were people from Virginia and Maryland.
I was like, I was like, finally, living in Maryland has given me a game dev benefit.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, that was definitely something cool. And a lot of people were like kind of surprised that I was from Texas, or they're like, whoa, wow, you came a really long way. But yeah, it was very fun. I wish we had something like this down here. But it's definitely worth the trip, I think.
The weather was great this year because I remember it was 2024, I think, or 2020. Yeah, 2024. I did a panel with some friends, with some game developer friends who are also on some of my panels this year. And they came from California and it snowed that whole weekend. And it was great because it was like their first time seeing snow. But I had to be like, hey, your jackets you have out there, you're going to want to double them because the harbor wind chill is disgusting when it is.
But then it's hard because then you got to like carry a jacket around with you, especially if you're from somewhere else. Like I was Ubering in, and so I like had a hoodie in like my backpack almost the entire time I was there, and I was like, in the future, I'm just going to like brave whatever the cold is, like between the Uber and the hotel, just so I don't have to carry that around the entire time. Because once you're in, you're kind of in, and there's not much of a reason
sweating.
To get out.
You're just toasty, and it's like. It's always super funny because I'll usually just walk out in a low jacket because I went to college at Penn State, and since I'm used to walking to like class with like negative degree, so I was like my cold tolerance has risen extremely, and I'm like, you're gonna see me in a small jacket. Don't do that. I'm used to this.
Yeah, exactly. I will say, if you are thinking about going for the first time, I would recommend trying to organize with a friend. I mean, wear
good walking shoes because you will be walking a lot.
Yes. It was like 20,000 steps a day at least for me because I was just going back and forth. But I knew Summer and Kyle, who they're friends of the podcast here, and they had a room at the Gaylord, so like I was able to kind of like. Every once in a while, go up into their room, just kind of chill.
Have a place to rest your stuff.
Yes.
Like having a friend who
charge my phone.
So helpful. That's the other reason I do panels. It's like, oh, I have someone who I can rest my stuff with.
Yes.
Or whose floor I can lay on if I'm tired.
Yeah, definitely was very nice. I do kind of wish that I had gone with someone though, because it was like, it would have been nice to have, because it's like, for instance, like Summer and Kyle, like they're cosplayers, like I think they enjoy the music stuff and they do the jam spaces. And I know Summer had like a solo during the big community orchestra thing, which was really amazing. I slept through it, sadly, but I'll watch
Don't worry, it'll be recorded.
I'll watch the VOD. But, I feel like they are there like for the cosplay con experience, and so like they're kind of out doing their own thing and they have their own people that they do the meetups with and everything. So there was a lot of times where we just had different goals on like what we wanted to do. So I think like having somebody that you kind of go with that's like your ride or die, like you're kind of like home base, I think would have been a really good thing. And it would make the cost of like a hotel or whatever like go down.
Yeah, splitting is definitely the way.
Yeah.
Like it's funny because it's like a lot of my Maryland friends are like stuffed in the hotel room like sardines. And I think the nice thing about MAGFest is that it's still very doable and very fun to do alone. Like that's usually, but it's also because I know a lot of people there and I know I'm going to run into people eventually, but having someone to go with, especially for your first one, whether it's just help bring stuff or also like look at really cool stuff is great.
Yeah, no, I agree. The whole time I was there, I was like, who am I going to get to come with me next year? Like, I was like, I definitely know some people that would really enjoy this and it might be nice to split a hotel room. But anyway, there are some more things I wanted to talk about. Just a couple of my favorite panels that I saw there. I went to, obviously your panel, Adanna, was very, very good. I really enjoyed that.
Is it the game dev one? Next year, we're going to do Mario Kart. We're going to do Mario Party instead because I realized it would be better. A lot of people thought we'd be playing Mario Kart. It was so
like during the whole time.
Yes, the panel was going to be game devs it was game developer Ask Me Anything with Mario Kart. So we did our intros, and then for accessibility, I was like, okay, if you want to hear the questions before we start the Mario Kart chaos, do it now. So that way, people who have like hearing issues, things like that, can hear it before the chaos because it is pretty fun. But so many people asked questions, we didn't really get to start for like the last 10 minutes. So I was like, next year I'll do Mario Party so that way you can still get the chaos, but still get enough downtime that you can still talk and answer questions. I think that's the perfect medium.
But I really enjoyed your panel. That was a very good one. I enjoyed that quite a bit. I went to a Mario Maker co-op thing, which was a ton of fun. Basically, it was like a blind Mario Maker levels, but they were all co-op. So it's like people who came were able to line up and basically, go on stage and play these Mario Maker levels that they were seeing for the very first time. And that was a ton of fun. I went just to watch because I'm a big Mario Maker content enjoyer. Like one of my favorite YouTubers is named Ryokar and he just plays Mario Maker. And it's so fun to just like eat food and watch Mario Maker.
And just
I don't know.
Watch people suffer in Mario.
I like watching it more than I like playing it. I think I always like pop off when like crazy things happen. And so I was just watching and enjoying myself. And then I was like, I think I want to do this. And then I ended up doing a 4-player co-op with one of the guys that I met there and some other random people. And then that was so much fun. And we won that one, which was amazing. And then I went to a really great Space Coast to Coast, like retrospective, which had nothing to do with video games. I think at one point he was like, I have to like actually make this about video games. So he like mentioned one game and he's like, all right, back to the history lesson. And that was so funny and so informative. And I really enjoyed that. I did a bunch of tournaments as well, which I really loved. I joined into the Magical Drop 3 tournament and the Super Monkey Ball tournament.
I saw you post that. Did you have fun? I was like, I was like, my brain is too exhausted for my face.
I failed miserably at both of them. The Monkey Ball one, I died so fast, but I did sit around and watch the entire tournament. And that was just so fun to see like, players at the top of their game playing on this arcade machine. So that was so fun. Man, there's so much other stuff that I did that I'm kind of like forgetting. I will say the 70-star Mario race for Mario 64 was so fun because in addition to it being just a standard 70-star race, they were using the Decomp project, like the PC port of Mario 64, which had Mega Man and Zero like modded into the game. So like they were playing as Mega Man and Zero with their like wall jump abilities and the sword and the buster and everything like that. So it was really cool watching that, and I really enjoyed it. It did have a Mega Man theme this year. So all the stuff at the speedrunning room was mostly Mega Man related, with some other stuff every once in a while. But before we get too much further into anything, though, I do want to talk about the indie section and kind of just like where game devs like kind of come into the fold here at MAGFest, because I think this is also a really great place for people to showcase their games. Now, like a PAX South or a PAX West or whatever, RIP PAX South, by the way, there are just areas for people to just have a booth to show off whatever games they're doing. That's pretty standard. But I think in addition to this, they also had this like giant indie arcade area. And this is really special. And this is something that you don't see very often. And a lot of the stuff I was seeing here were like really, really, really unique experiences. And I've got video of this section up for the video viewers right now. But it's going to be hard to really showcase everything that was here. But there was some incredible stuff. Like there was this one game that was all on this like LED strip that would go up inside this umbrella. And that was one of the most fun games I played there. And the input was like like those door stoppers that go like, boing, 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 like when you hit them, it was like that. Yeah. And you would like kind of move it forward and back like a joystick. And then you would, make it shake back and forth in order to like attack like different pips on the LED strip that you'd be moving up and down it. That was incredible. There's, this giant bowler hat called like, I think Haberdasher.
Yes, I saw that one where you guys were walking together, and it was like really, really cool. The MAGFest Indie Alley is always cool. One of the games I worked on, Kiss You, was there last year.
Oh, cool.
And it's always fun seeing all the like, because it's not just like different regular type of, I don't want to say regular type of indies, because there isn't really a regular type of indies, but I feel like you see some of the more cooler or experimental ones. One of my favorites was last year, was in tax form dating sim, where you would like learn to do your taxes through a dating sim.
Yeah.
And I was like a dating sim / visual novel. I cannot remember the name of it, but seeing that was really, really cool. Yeah. And I think their business cards were framed like accountant business cards, which were really funny. So it's always fun seeing like all the different experimental art. And I think the other reason the MAGFest Indie Arcade is so great is it's always highlighted like in the Gaylord hotel rooms in between concerts and stuff. They'll show like ads for the different
games cool. That's great.
So it feels like you can see like, it'll be like, check out the Indie Arcade, and it'll show like flashes of each game.
Cool.
And it's right next to the vendors hall and the artist alley. So there's always a lot of flow and movement in there. And I know that I have some friends that like Breeze the Game has showcased there like past 2 years, I think. And they always like have a good time. And it's always fun to like just see like players like checking out. And I think the other cool thing about it specifically is a lot of what I've learned over the years is that a lot of mainstream players are interested in indie games. But if you're a more casual gamer and you're not as familiar, especially if you're not on PC and you're not as familiar with like Steam, itch.io, things like that, you don't know all of these cool games exist.
Yeah.
So now once you like get into it and it's right there, so it's easy to check out, it's all free, you can just walk in, play a game, and usually the developers will also be there so they can also talk about it, learn more about the game. So it's always super duper fun, because in like some like other conferences and events there is an arcade, but it's not like really, sometimes it's hard to find. It's not like in a main area. It's a lot harder for devs to get traffic. But at MAGFest, it's like shown as one of the like main attractions, which is really great.
Right. Yeah, no, I think it's wonderful. And I think something that I really loved about the indie arcade area specifically is that it was a way for a lot of developers to really show off these like really innovative like control schemes and methods, like for instance, and even games that are like a little bit more standard. Like for instance, friend of the show, we had Alcy on to talk about Qualia last year, and Qualia was there this year in the indie arcade area. Now I know last year at MAGFest, Qualia was also there, but it was just like running on a laptop or whatever. This time, basically Sydney set up an entire like desk area with all this like, this printed material that you can look at, and these like Post-it notes and business cards, and the whole like computer setup was built and manufactured specifically for the setup.
Yeah.
So it was like they always have something like eye-catching and interesting that you can't get at home, right? So it was like, and then there were games that had control methods that were truly bizarre. Like one was just like a squishy heart that you squeeze to
Yes,
like do things. There was also there was a few that used like your entire body to move. There were lots of like 3D printed controllers that could only really exist in a physical space, and then tons of like local co-op games that are built into arcade cabinets as well. So it's like, it's the kind of stuff that like you said, a lot of people might not be super familiar with the indie space, but a lot of these games just are not going to exactly translate to playing at home on your computer or on your Switch or something like that, So it's like, it made these experiences like feel very, very special. And like, I've spent a lot of time in the indie area because I love indie games. I think like the majority of stuff that I play are indie games, and having an opportunity to like have these really unique, bespoke experiences that I'd never be able to have anywhere else in my life was just one of the many fabulous parts of this convention. And I think something that I like really resonated with me as like a gamer, right? And as somebody who is a creative and like loves to see unique shit, like I just get so tired of the same kind of like AAA slop that you see shoveled out by the games industry every year, right? And so
I think the other like fun thing about MAGFest India is that you don't like, how do I word this? Because like when you're like online and you're like advertising your game demos and you're like working like that Steam events and stuff, you're trying to get wish lists, you're trying to get the game bought, you're trying to get your games outside. But with the MAGFest indie games, sometimes these are like hobbyists and like, because I know I think it was the Pratt Institute that had like a table in India page showing off like the student games that were made. So now you can also see like a lot of like really cool niche games that you wouldn't really see anywhere else because they're just made just to be made. It's like, oh, I wanted to make a game that uses this control scheme and this controller, and that's it. I just wanted to make this for fun. This is something I'm obsessed with. And that's a really cool space to like showcase that and get it in front of other people. And I also wanted to mention this because I don't know if you saw it. There's also an indie retro section because every year MAGFest has a retro homebrew competition where it's like indie developers for systems that are retro and don't really have games like NES,
and those
GBA,
had
things like that.
CRTs and all those monitors set
up
for
they
those,
had
right?
it in their own separate area, and I didn't know about it prior to this year, so I went and checked it out. And it was really, really cool seeing like how like even though those games were made with the limitations of like not having as much like space to make like these games, and you have to like really compress and use every single pixel you can to maximize everything, and still making really cool games was really, really cool to me.
Totally.
I think especially as like an indie developer who like first console was a Game Boy Advance, Nintendo DS, because as I've been like working on stuff in my own personal projects, I keep going back to like the Game Boy Advance because it's like really helpful to make games where you don't really have a lot of flexibility. And I think that like comes into when you say like AAA slop, where it's like there's so much money and you don't have the restrictions that you usually do, like as much for like portable systems, that you can make like all these high fidelity, amazing graphics, but is like the game fun to play? Like sometimes it gets so lost in like, oh, we can do this thing because we can throw infinite money at it. And it's like, oh, is this adding to the experience? Is there a reason why all this is here? Whereas with like indie games and a lot of like smaller, like the retro games, because you have like such limited resources, such limited space on like your game chips and things like that, only so much memory, you really have to make more intentional choices and like compromises, which I think is really, really neat.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I do want to give a couple shout outs that I pulled up while you were talking there. One of them was actually in the regular arcade section, and this was a thing called Malibu. And this was a game that used like an actual physical, like a helicopter that would, use a rotor blade that would go back and forth, and you would lift it up and down in order to like hit lit up areas that were all around it. That one was really, really fascinating. Apparently there are only 2 of those that exist in the world. Another one that I really enjoyed was like a toilet paper ripping simulator.
That's amazing.
And it was called Unrolled. And that was like, it used like a trackball basically. And, you would, you'd have to like, hit it at the exact point. A lot of the games that were in the indie section like reminded me of like WarioWare games if you turned them
Yes.
into full games. You know, this is
Yeah.
very much one of those. Were there any other ones that you had that you wanted to
Speaking
talk
of WarioWare, one of the most interesting and fun ones I played was it was a Wario style game, and it was in an arcade cabinet, but instead of regular controllers, it was 2 keyboards. So all of the mini games were typing based.
Right.
And one of the cool ones was like a Pong based one, where you have the ball going back and forth, and each player has to type a word before the ball hits the other end. And as it goes on, the words get longer and longer.
Right. Yeah, that's
like
cool.
I got expedite and was like, I don't remember how to spell, even though the words were right in front of me. And it was just so cool, because it's like, how do people think of this stuff? Like, you see some of the games in the indie alley, and it's like, you just see like, it was like, you had to like think about this, code it, conceptualize. And it's like, how do you even like think and manage to create this? And I think it's especially important in like the age of like AI and how that's becoming more. Unfortunately, executives are trying to push more and more of that. I'm not going to ramble too much because I've researched AI in college before. It's not going to work. Don't use it for your games.
Yeah, do
and
not.
And seeing just all the creativity that people still have even now, and like just how broad the scale of games is getting and the experiences you can have in games is just so cool. It's great.
Yeah, I loved it. Very, very inspiring, as you said, to just see the creativity on display. Another game I really enjoyed was Particle Mace. There was also an arcade version of this as well, but this was a game that was literally on a Vectrex, like those old like vector-based systems that were out that don't even use like pixels. You know, it's literally drawing lines on the screen. There was a new Vectrex game available for people to play. Also, the Qualia booth. I've got that on screen right now. Anybody watching the YouTube version. There was a game that I played called Guacamole, I believe it was called. And that was a game where you are essentially like at a desk at work, like making guacamole, but like your boss will come by. And so you have to stop, like, you're basically using like a paper cutter, like the giant paper cutter that was there to cut the things. To make the guac.
Stop.
But then with your left hand, you had to put inputs on your computer. So you were like multitasking while you're making the guac. So you were like
looking, you were working while you're making the
exactly. It was hilarious. So funny. I really enjoyed that. I don't even know what the game with the umbrella was called, but I do have a video of it for anybody wanting to see what it was like. It was very hard to capture on film, but I had so much fun playing that one. And whenever you would die, the whole thing would light up. And it was very, very satisfying to actually like score in that one. And then obviously Nightmare Cart from Bunlith was there. That's a very, a pretty famous game in the indie sphere right now. And that arcade cabinet is just gorgeous and was so cool to see in person. That was my first time actually playing Nightmare Cart. I think that started originally as a Bloodborne card.
Yeah, Bloodborne card. I was like that, and then I was like, I remember Bloodborne.
I think Bunlith was like, oh, I think I actually want to sell this game, so I'm gonna turn it into its own thing.
Just scrub these barcodes off. Nobody.
Yeah, exactly. And then the last one I'll talk about that I have a video of here, but there were so many more. Was one called Plug and Chug, and this was a game that used, actually like taking wires out and plugging them into different inputs and whatever. And then this one also had a little like user manual that you had to like look at for that tactility as well. So
I believe if you look on the MAGFest site, there is a list of all of the indie arcade games and all the accounts you can check them out on.
Yeah, good call. There was one more that I didn't get to play, but the whole thing was like on like a wooden like built-in CRT TV, like those kind of big units that would have the TVs in them. And the way that you played this one, it was like a serial killer who was killing different people, and you'd have to flip through the channels on the TV in order to like learn more about where the serial killer was going to go next and the kind of people that he was killing. So then the way that you would play was by like writing stuff on Post-it notes for the people that would come after you, so they could like use those hints to like track down the killer. And it was this big, I saw people playing that thing for like hours at a time, like people got really invested into it.
The other cool thing is like how much like community play is built into MAGFest too. Like when you like both in like the indie arcade and like the regular arcade area, it's so normal for you to see someone like sitting playing a game, and then there's always like 2 controllers. You can always hop into a game. I hopped into many a Pokemon Puzzle League and Panel Day Poem game, and immediately got jumped. But it was still very fun.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just remarkable, the kind of stuff that you see there, and I think that it's definitely worth, like you said, checking out that list of a lot of the indie games that were available. But if you want to have these experiences, you kind of have to be there. You know, it's kind of like, it's something that is very much
you just
a
have
tactile
to be
experience. Yeah, exactly. But hopefully there's a lot that some people can learn on that. And maybe that isn't just making a bunch of plastic peripherals that fill up landfills eventually. I'm looking at you, Guitar Hero, although I do think Guitar Hero needs to come back. But there's so much more we could talk about. But is there anything else that you kind of wanted to talk about with your experience at MAGFest or other
wanted to mention the band performances. Can't forget that. I don't know which concerts you saw, but Rebecca Sugar did a Steven Universe and Lonely Magic. That was amazing. I was like, I'm so tired. I literally watched the first minute on my phone. I was like, no, I have to go and see this live. So I got in my pajamas, went down, and I was glad because the line had cleared a bit. And then I think my favorite part was when they started Stronger Than You, and Estelle popped out, and I lost my ever-loving mind because I was like, wait, that sounds like Estelle. I was like, wait, that is Estelle. Me and my friends were losing it in the back. It was so good.
That's great. Yeah, I did not see that concert. And in fact, I didn't see as many concerts as I probably should have. But I did
You didn't see Crush 40?
No, I didn't. I wanted to see Crush 40, but what was I doing during Crush 40? I might have even just been I forget.
Laying down in silence.
Yeah, maybe.
That was me for front. I was I need a break. So I just watched it from my hotel room.
Right.
It was such a ball. I think that's one of the fun things about MAGFest is even if you're super tired and watching the concert from your TV, you can still feel the energy. Of course, being there in person is best, but you can still feel the energy because, the singer, I can't remember his last name, he's Johnny something, but he was talking about how much how much all the different fans and how all the music changed him. And I remember him starting Live and Learn and the entire room going nuts.
Oh, yeah.
He was this is the first song that changed everything. And everyone went crazy. I think that's super fun.
No, I missed that one and I regret it. In fact, if I go again, which I will go again, but it's definitely checking out more concerts. I think
definitely look through and make
I was just I was just taking everything in.
Yeah,
it was
exactly.
just I was having so much fun just walking around. And like you said, we kind of talked about it a little bit, but there are these little taped off areas just in the hallways where people pop up for these kind of
and they just jam
emergent
out.
Jams. But it was one of them, I think you even commented on my story on Instagram, was Insane in the Rain.
Insane in the Rain, yeah.
Yeah, it was just some of the best saxophone I'd ever heard in my life.
It was Insane in the Rain. I think Rob Kovacs, who does really great piano, was also in that.
Yeah, he was. He was playing keyboards on that.
Yeah, which is the other fun part because it's even though there's there's the big performances, there's still a lot of really cool video game musicians just wandering around.
Oh,
I know COOWPS was there because he judged the retro indie competition. I went to his set last year. That was fire. Dang.
Yeah,
that was such a good time.
Yeah, we're mutuals on Blue Sky. I should have hit him up. I did get to meet a bunch of mutuals, which was so nice. It was nice to
that's always the fun part is meeting all your mutuals. And
yes. But anyway,
cool.
I saw this band called Cloud Save. And they were really good. They're
I followed them online. I had something at the same time, so I couldn't make it. But I saw clips, and it was nice seeing how excited everyone was.
Yeah, they were at the Chip Space, and so it was it was a smaller show, and it wasn't super long, but it was very, very, very cool. And that was awesome. They're a funk jazz band from New Orleans. So it was really great. I saw Onumi do a DJ set, which I absolutely loved. That was so much fun to see as well. And Triforce Quartet did
Triforce Quartet is great.
Yeah, they were really great. So I want to see more next year, but those are definitely worth checking out. And it's kind of honestly, I think that's why most people go is for the
because the Proto Men did the release of their Act 3, their video game opera thing. I had a lot of friends that were into it. And I was I'll just catch this later because I know this is going to be absolutely packed. And I'm tired. And it was also Saturday night. I was as soon as that concert started, I was yes, I'm going to BurgerFi. There's going to be no line. And I'll just catch it later. But
exactly.
What are other? There was Rebecca Sugar. There's Crush 40. There's Casey Lee Williams, this main singer for a lot of the Ruby songs. Her set was really, really great. I feel like this MAGFest was like made for high school Adanna, between like the Ruby, the Sonic, the Steven universe.
Yeah.
Beat Brigade is also really fun. They're a band that for their performances, there's a band and then one guy is playing the game. So they match the music to the game. I'm actually going to send you, they did Mega Man X this year.
Right.
But in 2019, they did a Mega Man 2 one. And I still have that performance on my phone to listen to whenever I'm like grinding for work because it's just so good.
Yeah.
So fun.
I mean, there were so many. I'm sure there's a million things.
Mega Ran was also good. Mega Ran was always fun. But yeah.
Anyway, it's a really great time. We've just been gushing on it for a while now. I had a lot of stuff I wanted to do this week to like prepare for this week's like episode of the podcast, but I'm like kind of glad that we're just doing this instead because it was like a very fun. It's just
so fun, and you're still you have to like process that MAGFest.
You have to like think about what you did.
Up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it is like, and now I'm like Summer. I like want to spread the good word, because it is like. I think it's like a lot of people in our audience like would very much really, really enjoy this. And it's, it can be a little overwhelming, but it's also like a very welcoming experience, like you said. And I think that there's kind of like different groups, like there's like the hardcore sweaty gamers like that are out there doing their thing. Then there's like the kind of like cosplay cool kids.
The Expedition 33 cosplayers. I saw so many baguettes. I think my favorite thing was I was waiting behind a group of friends like in the elevator, and then some guy who was next to me asked, "Is that a real baguette?" And then one of them just took a big bite out of it, because what I heard was someone said on Blue Sky was that people were finding out it was easier to get a real baguette instead of a prop one.
Oh,
so they just bought a real one. And I was like, I posted this on Blue Sky earlier, but I was like, I'm starting Expedition 33 like once my MAGFest exhaustion is worn off. And I was like, if I enjoy it, I'm going to learn how to make baguettes and carry around a real one, because I always do a ton of baking.
Now I've gotten y'all hyped up. I think maybe you brought this up, but I do hope that they do a Castlevania theme at some point soon, so I can try to get on a panel.
Definitely get one, because it's always super great. And if you want to do a Castlevania panel, I know the people in panels. I could connect you.
I'm gonna hit you up.
Talk about all of Alucard's character design for me specifically.
Oh, I know some people that would be very jazzed to talk about that.
For Austin, sure. Just hit me up after this, because I think like the nice thing is that even if it's like not on theme, you can still do panels for other stuff.
Of course,
like there's going to be a lot of stuff focused towards that theme. Do other. But before we ended, I did want to get to the last point, which is like worth it for indie devs to make the trip. And the thing is, MAGFest, if you're out of state and like mostly coming from like the West Coast or anywhere that isn't the DMV, it can be expensive, but it isn't too much. I definitely recommend going, even as an indie dev, even if you don't want to showcase and you just want to go and see, because just all of the cool stuff that you will see will just inspire you artistically.
Agreed.
And it's just such a good time. And it's also great for networking. I like networked a little when I remembered that I existed.
Me too. I was like, man, I probably should have told more people that I have a podcast here.
That's when you reach out later and be like, hey, remember when we met in the elevator at MAGFest? I remember last year.
Yeah.
Like MAGFest, like like the month before a Spirit Swap release. So every time people got in an elevator with me, I was like, hey, you guys are trapped here. You're going to hear about my indie game.
That's quite literally an elevator pitch at that point. Yeah. Well, very good, Adanna. I think we should probably move towards wrapping it up. What do you think, listener? Is this exciting to you? Is this something that sounds like you would be interested in? Please let us know in the comments. We would love to hear your thoughts as well. And were you at MAGFest? Please let us know. But I think in the meantime, we're going to take another small break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking about the games we've been playing recently. I obviously didn't have a ton of time to play games this past week, but I did bring around with me my little AYN Thor device, and that was my console of choice to actually have on my person at MAGFest, because I could actually just keep that in my pocket. It's the kind of Nintendo 3DS approximate Android device. And I did install and have been playing the Ocarina of Time 3DS game. But I have a 4K patch installed on it. So, or maybe not 4K, but it's an HD texture pack basically installed in this game. And it made it very, very, very fun to play while on the show floor and walking around the con. So much fun, and god damn it, I haven't played Ocarina of Time since, I don't know, at least a decade. So it's very fun, like rediscovering a lot of this. I know it's funny because last week I was like, I'm playing Link's Awakening and I'm finally going to play it this time. And then I started playing Ocarina of Time instead. But whatever, it's my life. I can do whatever I want. But I've been having a ton of fun playing that. And it was a great conversation starter as well. A bunch of people kind of like looking over my shoulder and being like, what the hell is that device? Because of the big, beautiful OLED screens and whatnot. So I've been having a ton of fun with that. I am like at Lord Jabu Jabu right now. I'm going to actually try and play through this game in its entirety. Another game I've been playing just dropped on Switch and Switch 2, and that is Suika Game Planet. This is a sort of circle version of Suika Game.
About that.
Basically.
I used to play Suika Game when that first came out. Me and my friends were playing that game religiously. It was bad.
Yeah. I started playing this the other day, and then I was like, uh-oh, about 2.5 hours have passed, and I've just been watching YouTube in the background and doing nothing with my life. But, it's very similar to the original Suika Game. It does have a Switch 2 version for only like $375 total, with, I guess, higher resolution or whatever. I don't really know what the big difference is. But anyway, it's a very fun game. I don't think it has like proper online multiplayer, sadly, but it does have game share local. And I think it's just a little bit of a nice like spin on the original Suika Game, just like having it be in this kind of like planetoid like circle form. So I've been really enjoying that. And then the last thing I want to talk about before we move on is actually a bit of hardware. This is a case that was sent to me by the good people over at COOWPS. I was reached out to by COOWPS. They are a Switch case and accessories manufacturer, and they actually reached out wanting to do a bit of a collab with Switch Headz with one of their new cases. So I thought I'd give this a little bit of a shout out and give my honest opinions on this. As you can see, it is a hard shell case for the Switch 2. I've got it here, and you can pop the top off like this. Sorry for all the audio listeners. Oops, it came apart in my hand. There we go. And as you can see, it's kind of COOWPS' take on the D-brand kill switch style of case. So you've got a case with its built-in stand here, as you can see, that goes up and down. It has a MagSafe magnet here, so you can actually attach a kind of charging area to it. But, best thing about it is obviously the grips on the back. And I think for a long time, I was like, oh, I like having like a thinner form factor for my Switch, and I don't really need the Steam Deckification of my Switch or whatever. But I gotta say, I installed this and I do like having the grips on it. It makes it easier to play games for a bit longer. And, actually when they reached out, I was like, yeah, I think I would like to do this because the case that I've been using for my Switch is a COOWPS case. So they sent it over and I'm enjoying it quite a bit. As you can see, the controllers can pop right off. If you want to just put the case on the Joy-Cons, you can do that. And it goes right back on pretty easily. Still has access to the USB-C. You are able to dock this with it on. I will say it's a snug fit. It's so snug that I'm like pretty worried I might scratch my screen if I don't put it in the right way. So me personally, I'm not docking this with the normal dock when this is on, but COOWPS does say that you are able to do it. And I can say I did put it in and out. It's not probably my preferred way to do it, but I'm a little safe with some of my stuff sometimes. I think if you have a screen protector on, I would be doing that constantly, but I like to raw dog my systems and I don't generally put screen protectors on things. I have a USB-C extender actually that I bring out of the dock, and I have that out and I use this with that because I also dock my Steam Deck on my TV. So I can use the actual Switch 2 dock with my Steam Deck, which is a cool bit of dual purpose features. But that's neither here nor there. That's not what this is about. I like it. It's definitely a take on the D-brand kill switch. They're doing their own version of it, but it's got a few more features that aren't involved in some of the other ones. So if this sounds interesting to you, definitely check them out. We're going to have a link to their Kickstarter, which I think has just under a week left in it right now. We'll have a link in the description of this episode if you're watching it on YouTube or if you're listening on the audio version on Spotify or Apple. Check that link in there. We get a little bit of a kickback on any sale from that. But thank you very much to COOWPS for sending that over. And that's it. That's baby's first brand deal. I think we did it there. Adanna, how does it feel to bear witness to the birth of a brand new era of me selling out on the podcast?
Perfect. First, we start with the Switch cases. Then we start with the Alucard branded ones.
Exactly. Yeah. Are you listening, Netflix? I'll do anything. I'll do anything for $1. No, I'm just kidding. What about you, Adanna? What have you been playing recently?
So when I'm going to immediately start Fire Emblem Path of Radiance when it's done downloading on my Switch. But one of the most fun, weird games I played earlier this year and most of last year was Promise Mascot Agency, made by Kaizenworks, I believe. They also made it's Paradise Killer.
Paradise Killer. Yeah, Paradise Killer.
I remember. But yeah, it's funny because it's like, imagine a Yakuza game, but the whole game is just all of the wacky side stories. Because basically you're a Yakuza, you're in trouble, you gotta pay back 12 billion yen that was stolen from your clan to save it from destruction. And your only hope is managing a mascot agency, because in this world, mascots are like little fairy creatures. So you're managing an agency to have them do event promo, trying to like repair this small dying town, connect with all the people there. And the writing is so zany, and but it's so funny and so full of heart that you can like tell some people Kaizen had an absolute ball making this game. So I'm just so excited. I'm preaching to the car. I'm like, everyone play Promise Mascot Agency. It's so fun. And also while I was at MAGFest, one of the fun things is that there's a very big Street Pass community. So on the 3DS, they had this thing called Street Pass where you could see other people. If you pass someone with 3DS, your little Miis would pass each other and you can play little games. So because I was carrying my 3DS around, started a replay of Fire Emblem Awakening, one of my all-time favorite games, and probably what set me on my path to game writing, which was fun.
Oh, really?
And the other fun thing is I was also starting to play some of my weirder 3DS games, like the ones your cousins get you because it says it's a 3DS game, and it's a game, they'll probably like it. And that weird game was Sushi Strikers, which is a game where sushi is outlawed, and you turn into a sushi Pokemon, a sushi Pokemon trainer to save the world from the oppressive regime, and after the sushi war they killed your parents. And it's so the plot is so unbelievably zany, and then you play and it's this is actually a really fun puzzle game because it's working a conveyor sushi belt restaurant where you're basically trying to match plates that have the same color and make combos. And then each of your little sushi sprites, which are Pokemon, give you different abilities to match the different play styles. And I was man, if this was, because I know it's ported to Switch, but tactically it feels so much better.
3DS is the way to play it for sure.
Because you can't do the dragging, and that's the whole thing. So moving it with controllers, it just doesn't feel the same. And I was I was playing it and I was man, now I realize why I had 20 hours of this. This is pretty fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's all the fun little games I've been playing. But
yeah.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course.
So close to MAGFest, because I was flying back to a different time zone after MAGFest. I could not do it. Yes. I'm so glad I'm here.
Yes, me too. Thank you so much, Adanna, for joining. That was such a wonderful, just kind of trip down the memory lane of pretty much yesterday. Yeah. But a very, very good time, and I really hope that it inspired some other people to take the trip as well. It's always great to have you on the show. We'd love to have you back again sometime.
For sure.
Of course. Thanks very much to MilkyWay.co for doing our website. Thanks to Corduroy for doing our music. Thanks to all of our patrons on Patreon for the continued support. And if you'd like to find me on the internet, I'm pretty much everywhere at Monolith Fiji. And what about you, Adanna? Where can people find you online?
On everything except the Bird app, Twitter, I am AFNarratives. That's AF and then the word narratives, NARRITIVES. On Twitter, it's AFNarratives, then the number 8, because AFNarratives was already taken.
Bullshit.
And then, and yeah, that's where you can find me, where I post all of my games work and all that other fun stuff. If you look on my Blue Sky, you'll probably see me tweeting about how much my back hurts after MAGFest. Fun times.
Lots of cat pics on the Instagram.
Lots of cat pictures.
Yeah.
You get to see August, and you got your... People loved, I made a little custom sticker of my cat for MAGFest of him in a Mega Man hat. And people love that so much. I'm like, well, I guess I'm making a yearly August MAGFest sticker.
Very, very good. I will say it was very nice to see my cat when I got home as well.
Yes.
A couple cat lovers on the podcast.
He, like, literally, as soon as I got home, like, he, like, loved spending time with my parents. He like, loafed on my lungs this morning.
Yeah.
So, man, why am I having trouble breathing in my dreams? And it's just my cat sitting on my lungs.
Oh, boy. Mine's a little too old for that. He's 16 years old. So he's sleeping on the bed, but he's down at my feet where he's comfortable.
Yeah.
Anyway, look, we could talk about this forever. If you'd like to find our show on social media, we are at Switch Headz on Blue Sky and Twitter, at Super Switch Headz on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. We have a website, switchheadz.com, and we have a Patreon, a Facebook group, and a Discord. We would love it if you would join us over there on our Discord. We have such a wonderful community over there of non-toxic gamers. It's a great place to continue the conversation after you listen to the podcast. We'd love to have you over there. Also, check out our Patreon if you'd like to chuck in a buck. But we'll have all of this stuff in the description of this episode. Whether you're watching us over on YouTube, please like and subscribe over there. Or if you're listening to us on Apple or Spotify or any of these other podcasting platforms, leave a review for us. That would be really helpful. Tell your friend about the show. Share us around. Word of mouth goes a really long way. And remember, we are doing a giveaway for a Switch copy of Big Hops. So if you share this episode, make sure you tag us online and we will enter you in to that giveaway for that game. It's a wonderful game. You're going to want to do it. And what better way than to play it for free? That's going to do it for this episode. As we said, we're going to be back next week to talk all about the new Animal Crossing update. But in the meantime, gang, you guys know the drill. Be safe out there. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to one another. Go to MAGFest. Make sure you get those tickets before they sell out for next year. Next year, we got to do an episode at MAGFest and then get a sponsor for NyQuil and Tiger Balm. There we go. Yeah.
That's what you're going to need after.
Yeah. Look, I am trying to get sponsorships, baby. Please. BetterHelp. No, not BetterHelp. They're actually bad. But anyway, fuck ICE. Free Palestine. We love you guys very much. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.